What's up, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to an all new episode of Beyond 2D with myself, Jessica Dugas, and the fabulous.
Farron Dozier, retired Army Sgt first class, and I'm checking out early.
No, no, you're not. And I trust that this is going to be a great episode. We've been we have, can I say enjoying? Have we been enjoying going down this
For
rabbit
the
hole?
most part, yeah, I have. I've been honestly looking at my trust issues, and so today
Yeah.
is more challenging than the last episode
Oh.
because it's about other people.
Mm. Yeah. We talked about last week. We got started on this trust down the trust rabbit hole, talking about trusting ourselves, which I think is the foundation of this conversation. Or maybe the last episode will be. I think we'll find out as we have this conversation. But today we're talking about trust in others. Do you feel like you trust other people? How important is trust in relationships? What or whom has contributed to your ability to trust or not trust others? Is it possible to truly 100% trust somebody else?
Can we have a moment of silence for this conversation? I'm glad we're not on the AM/FM radio because
Yeah.
you're not allowed to have any
Right.
any dead silences. So
Right.
at least we have video here, huh? They can see
We've
our
got the
facial
video.
expression.
We've got the video. So we love to ask you. So I'll go back to the original question from last week, which is, do you trust yourself? And so my next question for tonight is going to be, do you trust others? Do you trust other people tonight? Let us know in the comments as we go through the show. Do you want to go over really quickly our definitions from last week?
Yeah, that's fine.
Um,
So people
okay,
can kind of
catch
see
up.
which direction we're gonna go from here.
In case you didn't do your homework last week. Trust, noun, reliance on the integrity, which we talked about,
Yes.
strength, ability, surety, etc. of a person or thing, confidence, and again, confident expectation. Ooh, love that word,
Mm,
of something, hope. That's another big word
yeah.
as well. You want to just give everybody maybe a little rundown of some of your thoughts on trust really quickly. I have one other word I want to look up for us while you're talking, so go ahead.
Yeah. So I just learned in the last few years. I used to talk about trust to myself, and I would say like I don't trust women or people, and
Mm,
learning how exaggerated my thoughts are and how I talk, I realized that I had to start. If I put a percentage of trust out there for myself, then that gave me some freedom to even look further in my life or really look and see how much I trust people. And so
mm,
when I did those cognitive behavior classes through the VA, I learned that to put a percentage of my trust. And so after I was really willing to look and do the work for myself first, I could say that I did trust myself, and I do trust myself
mm-hmm,
pretty high, like 90% of the time, 95% of the time. I won't lie that given some circumstances, I might revert back to the old Farron and try to get away with some stuff. But then being able to say, okay, if I trust myself 90% of the time, could I trust other people that much?
mm,
Right. And then that's where I started to looking at, well, if I trust myself 90%, what is that 10% that I don't trust about myself?
right.
And then is that what I'm gauging other people off of? Not
Mm,
the 90% that I trust in, but I'm gauging them off of that 10% that I
right.
don't trust. And so now I'm filtering their trust through my
Mm,
distrust. And I believe, as we've been doing these last couple of shows, there lies my issue.
Right, right. I mean, I think we talk about how other people are behaving around us is oftentimes a mirror for
Mhm.
ourselves, and not always a mirror for how we're behaving, but a mirror for an opportunity for us to look at ourselves and go, okay, like how did I get here? Like what caused these issues. The fact that I don't trust this person actually has nothing to do with that person and has to do with us and what happened.
Right,
how did we
exactly.
how do we get to that point? One of the words that I hear often when it comes to trust in relationships and this is why I want to look it up really quick, because this definition makes me wildly uncomfortable.
Mm.
And that's for the word trustworthy.
Oh,
Instead of just trustworthy. We hear that a lot because even in leadership, like
wow.
is your leader trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
And the definition of trustworthy is it's pretty simple. Deserving of
Mm.
trust or confidence, dependable, reliable. How important is it for you in relationships for the person to be dependable and or reliable?
Yeah, you lost me when you said deserve.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, well,
You
that's why it
you
it,
lost
it
me
made me
there.
feel some kind of way too.
Yeah,
So go
yeah,
ahead.
because I'm at my age today, I'm still trying to figure out, like, what does that mean to me? What do I what do I say I deserve, right? And so that's been something I haven't really overcame or even dealt with. Like you say, we hear people talk about being trustworthy, and I believe just trustworthy is someone that is it says reliable, someone that you can expect to that you can rely on, that there's like they've proven over time that this is who they are, and if you need them in that, maybe that certain situation, they're trustworthy, maybe not in all areas, but maybe
Mm.
in the area of where you've developed that friendship or that confidence in them, that you can be like, you know what, who can I call? Oh, I can call Jody because I know Jody is trustworthy, and you know, he'll be there to take care of that, or help me look through that, or whatever I need in that situation. So I think there's certain people we do have, we rely on a sense of trustworthiness, like,
Mm.
and even for myself, I'm sure there's things that people can count on me for, right? And
Right.
then there's some things that people know that they can't count on me for, and
Mm.
and I believe that we in developing those relationships, like, we get a sense of that person, of what, you know that, to me, that goes back to my strengths and my weaknesses,
Right.
right? So yeah, I believe it's it's gonna reflect on me, um and that relationship that I'm building with that person, but
Mm.
I'm still reflecting on myself. Can I trust you in this part of this conversation,
Right.
right? And
Right.
maybe there'll be some tests too, like I'm gonna test you, and I'm gonna,
Right.
give you some trials and errors. But yeah, it's what I deserve in life. I'm still like,
Yeah.
that's tough for me right now, because I
Yeah.
really don't know how to digest that for myself, of what I did. And my dad would say that too a lot before he passed. You deserve it. You deserve it. I'm like, okay, I hear you, but I
Yeah.
don't think I've experienced that for myself, of what I deserve for myself.
Mhm. I think that the word deserving for me is challenging because I feel like I am deserving. I feel like I am worthy of, but at the same time, I gotta use that mirror and check myself and ask myself, am I treating myself like I am worthy and deserving of, which is tough. So even in as we're talking about trust, is it acceptable for me to say it is number one important for me in a relationship that the person that I'm with is trustworthy, or that I can trust this person if I can't even trust myself 100%?
Yeah. So then, how do you how do you gauge that?
Right.
And more so, how do you gauge that in language, right?
Right.
Because it's really, everything that we're talking about is based off of language, and we're describing and trying to figure out words and what it
Mm,
means, and sometimes there's words that we use that take our power away,
right.
right? In trusting. So maybe you got to find new words that give you better um, strength, or empowers you, or gives you your strength, or whatever that is for you, because
Right.
there's some words that we use that just have
Mm,
no power, and
right.
I got a couple that I just don't. I know we use them, and I have to
Yeah.
make sure that I respect people that do use those words, but for me, like, I remove them because I realize it just gave me no power, no strength. So
Right.
trust
Right.
might be one of those for me, because I've had such an issue for so long
Right.
that trust is not important to me. Maybe there's another word for it, but
Mm,
if I use the word trust, that is like number 5 on my list in a person. Like, I don't. I'm not even trying to.
wow.
I'm not even worried
Number
about.
5.
Yeah, because I'm not worried about trusting you, because people are gonna do what they do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
and I can't sit here and try to control you to make sure that you behave or you do what you like. That's not my responsibility.
Right.
So I put it down on my list, because I just believe that people are going to do what they want to do when they want to do it, and you have no control over that. So
Right.
I don't come into a relationship, even intimate relationship, like, number one is trust. Like, nah, like,
Mm.
not even.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was looking up some information, because I've heard a lot of people over time saying trust is number one, like trust is number one, trust number one. And when I was there was an article on mindbodygreen.com that was talking about honesty being the foundation for trust in a relationship, and trust is necessary for a relationship to function and thrive. So, do you feel like it is absolutely necessary? Trust is necessary in your relationships and it's just not high on the list? Or do you feel like it's just not, like, could you survive with a partner that you didn't have a high level of trust for?
I mean, if you talk about percentages, then I would probably have to gauge it. Right, you're like,
Yeah.
if you're dropping lower than like 70% trust,
Mm,
then then probably not. But again,
yeah.
then it's also my responsibility to hold you accountable if I don't trust you in that level, right? So
Mm,
I'm not saying I'm gonna try to keep track of you, or follow you around, or put navigation devices on you. But I believe that if we can have enough conversation where, okay, I can, if we be honest, I could I trust you 70%. So what is that 30% that I don't trust? And let's talk about it. And maybe that's not negotiable. And if
mm,
it's not negotiable, then maybe we shouldn't even worry about you know that part of that percentage.
right.
And is that enough to say that we shouldn't have a friendship or relationship?
Right.
And that to me works better, because now you're negotiating. Because maybe once I
Mm,
hear from you of what my 30% of I don't trust is, and you're willing to help me practice in developing that, right? Then maybe that's workability. So then
yeah.
maybe you know it's different. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
wanted
work.
to Yeah, yeah. I wanted to pose another question to everybody out there, whether you're listening live or on the replay. Is there anyone or anything that you feel like you trust absolutely 100%? Like, is there anything that has that 100% spot? My husband and I had this conversation the other day in preparation for this show, and I was evaluating because I've shared, very candidly on shows that I've been on, that I have dealt with anxiety disorder my entire, like, ever since I was a teenager. And it's been tough. I've gone a long time without needing treatment, and then there are moments when I know that I need help, because one of the telltale signs of lack of trust for me is increased anxiety, and it goes both ways. So when I don't trust someone, I feel anxious, and when I feel anxious, I kind of lose that trust. It's a vicious cycle. But my husband and I were talking about it the other day, and I was like, I don't I when we're I feel like there may be moments when I'm at 100% with my husband, but I don't think that that's 24/7. I think that there's moments where a memory might seep in from an ex or a situation or simply the anxiety that I deal with, which likes to create lots of stories in my head that I didn't give permission for. Okay. And
Yeah.
so we had a really real conversation, but as a couple the other day about um and it goes back to what you were saying before, like there's got to be some other way that we can communicate this to
Yeah.
each other, because it doesn't feel good to say to your spouse, there are moments I don't trust you 100%. It doesn't
Exactly.
feel good to say that,
Exactly.
and I'm
And,
sure it didn't feel good to hear either.
no, and so I don't know. You said so much in that.
I know. Sorry.
It's yeah. It just goes back to, you know, the emotional. For some people, we are
Mhm.
emotional people, right? And I'm starting to learn that for some people don't have issues with their emotions, or they hide it pretty good.
Oh, I think
But
they all hide it. I think it's
yeah,
BS if people tell me that.
yeah,
I don't trust you when you tell
yeah.
me.
Yeah, so we're all, as human beings, we're dealing with something. And
Yeah.
so if I go spiritually on you, from my spiritual principles and my kingdom principles, the Bible says, do not put your trust in man. Like,
Mm.
that is something the Bible says, because
Mm.
man, we are flawed,
Right.
and we will disappoint one another. There will be something that we experience from one another, rejection, whatever we language it as.
Mm.
You're gonna experience something from someone. And like you said, the best thing that you can have is that level of communication, that I can come to you and say, hey, you know what, this is my experience of you, and I don't know what, can we talk about that? Did you really mean that, or did you do that, or did you, like, we have to have that workability. I believe
Mm.
it's so when you don't feel like I don't trust you, like you said, it may not be anything that you've done. It may be all over here in my body sensations from a past or whatever. And my mind's gonna, and then those thoughts are gonna travel. And then I gotta have that. That's why we talk about the self-awareness is so important first, because I have to have that self-awareness to see if it's actually coming from over here, which
Mm.
99% of the time is coming from over here. And to check mine first before I try to check you is way more
Mm.
productive, or adulting, or whatever you want to call it. So that's why I believe the self awareness in all of it is so important, because I believe if there's a trust issue, that person would tell you, "Hey, look, I got a trust issue with you, and I've
Mm.
seen your behavior, and I've seen your character, and I've seen how you do this, and so where is that coming from?" But I
Mm.
think we should do that early.
Yeah.
I think we should have these kind of talks early, before the intimacy, before the sex, before the, like, what's your views about trust, and like have these kind of, talks, and just kind of get a sense of how people, because I believe out of the heart comes issues, of life, and people say what they're dealing with. At some point, you're gonna hear, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
did you really just say that? Like, did you hear
Yeah.
yourself?" Like, and then so now, as friends developing, really, you can talk about that without being offended.
Mm.
But once you become intimate, or those levels of emotions get stronger, then you're shocked when the person says, "Hey, you know what? I don't really think I trust you." Well, you just now telling me that 2 years later. Like,
Right? Yeah.
right?
I
So
think
it's like all that.
yeah, the emotions and our connection, I think, has a lot to do with it. I have 800 different rabbit holes in my head right now. But I wanted to quickly say, the shit shows commented, by the way. Thank you so much for this comment. I really appreciate that. Sometimes, they said, remember, you're amazing. People need your peer purpose. And thank you for being here and making someone's day. We appreciate you
Thank
being
you, thank
here,
you.
and supporting our work as well. Um, and trusting us to deliver these wonderful
Yes,
conversations.
trusting myself to not go off camera and turn off my mic.
Right? But yeah, so like I have so many different things that I want to touch on with this, but I think when we're talking about relationship with other people, um I know you said a number five for you, trust on the thing.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
it might be, I'm trying to evaluate. I think it depends on the person, and I also think, and tell me, this is where I wanted to go with this. Tell me if you think if it works this way for you. So I might have, say, you know, uh, an 89% trust level for you, and I might have an 89% trust level for somebody else, but y'all might have, there might have been different things or different reasons for that level of trust. And do you feel like you give your, is there, are there people that you give a pass to allow them to be less, we'll use the
that's
word trustworthy
trustworthy.
since we talk about that?
I would say yes, because out of my daughters, um, my youngest daughter Deja, she's one of those. I'll I'll ask for forgiveness later.
Mm. Yep.
Right. So I always have that in the back of my mind of when she's telling me what she's done or what she wants to do. It's like,
Mm.
but you already did that. So it's like now you want forgiveness
Mm.
after the fact. So some
Yeah.
people do that. Some people will just say, "Hey, I'll deal with it later," but we don't realize how that affects the level of trust for your
Right.
parent, right?
Right.
or,
Mhm.
or for your parent to child. So I think we do gauge different people on different scales and different percentages, and
Mm.
again behavior. Like you can't, and that's the thing about being human beings. You can't group us all in one. There's certain things that we just cannot be grouped in all at once,
Yeah.
and that's behaviors. Because like myself, prior to 40 years old, I'm sure, people looked at me from a different way. And then now that I've grown and developed myself, some people see me in a newer light, and some people still see me as the old Farron, that the old behaviors.
Mm.
I've grown from that.
Right. Right.
So we can't just put that all on everybody. I think it's case by case.
Yeah.
And again, if the self reflection allows us to look at the behaviors of that person, and then that's where you can give that person some compassion. Because if I know what I dealt with and discover how I behave,
Right.
then the at least I could do is give you some compassion for your behaviors, and then ask why. Ask questions about those behaviors,
Mm.
but not just label you and chuck you off, because we're all dealing with something.
Right.
And that's where
Right.
I guess you could say empathy, compassion, whatever that is.
Mm.
Like I can put myself in your shoes
Right.
and see if I was dealt those cards, I would probably act like that way too. Like I probably wouldn't trust you. I wouldn't trust me either if that's the case.
Right.
So then it becomes a different conversation.
Right.
Once you're mature, and like I said, you have a better understanding of these topics that we've been bringing up, these 10 shows.
Mm.
You got to get that understanding for yourself, because if you don't, and you have those influences from TV and movies and your past experiences, you're gonna wonder why all your relationships turn out the way they are. Well, that's because you're behaving that same way with
Right.
all those relations. So it can
Yeah.
only go that direction because I'm the common denominator.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Our comment says trust is a word that's thrown around too freely. I will try and see, this next part is where I fall into as well. I will trust anyone until they give me a reason not to trust them. And that's sort of where I fall kind of in relationships, because we touched on this for a moment, I think, last episode. And I was telling, did I talk about Dee Wallace on last episode about the trust thing with her? About
I
being
think you
naive?
did. Yeah, I think you
Yeah, I
did.
think
Yeah.
I was talking a little bit about that. So Dee Wallace, in the beginning of her career, we had a conversation when she was on the Breakthrough Show with me, when she was trying to get on movies and things like that. Like she would just go into these big Hollywood parties and be like, "Hi, I'm Dee Wallace. I'd love to be on your movie." And people were like, "You just can't do that. Like, who are you? Who do you think you are to come in here and just to put yourself out there like that, and think that people are just gonna trust you?
Exactly.
Who's Dee Wallace? Who's that?" Back then, and so But she said that being naive served her, because now she's has the longest movie list of, I think, any American actress. Like, it's
Wow.
unbelievable. And so I think about that with myself, like how many times I could have chosen to just build that wall and not trust, at not have any level of trust at all, not put myself out there, and I could have closed myself off to so many relationships. Like, I my ex was military. When I met you, I could have been like,
Oh yeah.
mm-mm,
Yeah, exactly.
nope, and we wouldn't have this fabulous show.
But what, when you shared her story like that, to me,
Yeah.
what sticks out the most right now is the confidence that she had to have
Mm,
to be
confidence.
that kind of person, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it and confidence is in the definition of trust. And
Mm,
so when with the personal development class that I've taken, confident is a way to be. So we gotta be. So if you're being confident, then you could be
mm,
trust. So to me, if you're being confident in yourself, then I could be trustworthy.
right.
Because guess
Right.
what? I could tell, I could be, and I have friends that are so honest in their relationships that women still want to be with them because they say, hey,
Right.
you're not the only girl I'm going to see. So
Yeah.
for some people, if you be confident in who you are as a person, people will accept that.
Mm,
And then that makes you trustworthy because
yeah.
they know, hey, for this is the way Farron is, and he's confident about his way, and then so they can, again, you can count on me, you can trust me to be this kind of person.
Right.
So,
Right.
but each relationship is different on the scale. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting as we get into that scale and percentages and things like that. There's a one of the couple trash TV shows that I enjoy watching from time to time, where I question people's ability to trust, or not, and I want to touch on that in a little bit here. You want to take a quick break?
yeah, let's do
Take
that.
take a breather. Let's take a
Yeah.
quick break, and we'll be back after this.
Let me
More
see.
about trust. Let us know. Chime in the comments. Let us know. Are you able to trust other people, and how does that compare to the trust level you have for yourself? And we'll be right back after this. Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com. Welcome back to our fabulous rabbit hole about trust here on Beyond 2D. I'm your
I
host, Jessica
I
Dugas.
love your graphics, yo.
Uh, we always, you can trust that my,
I can
I
definitely
ask you,
trust. Huh?
how, what's your level of trust for me? And I'll reciprocate.
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I trust you um so much, like 99%, right? Because I'm gonna be honest, because you know sometimes I do my part of the show and I just show up, but and sometimes like man, like I trust the fact that you're gonna take care of what needs to be taken, and I don't, and so now that it's like, is that too much trust?
Mm,
Like, do I need to be
yeah.
like, hey, do you need some help? Are you cool over there? Or should I just be like, nah, she's got it handled, and so I'm trusting.
Should we lower that lower that percentage just a little bit there? Because
Well,
I
after
feel
this
like
show, maybe.
you know what? It's funny. So if someone says to you, let me reciprocate first. So I feel the same though, because and we've had this conversation back when the show first started about how when we got together, everything for the show just came together so beautifully and so effortlessly that it was like I even said to someone, I think it was Brittany that I was talking to, that I was literally like, I'm not sure I'd be able to work with anyone else ever again because I don't know that I'll be able to trust that they can live up to the
Yeah.
expectation that I've come to know with Farron, right? So it's interesting with that. Like, do you feel, and I have to say hi really quickly to Teresa. Hi, and I trust you too, Teresa. The percentage though, ma'am, no, I'm just kidding. It's good to see you tonight. But so do you feel a sense of pressure when someone says, I trust you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because now you just opened up another rabbit hole because trust could mean perfection. Now I got to
Mm,
be perfect, and now
mm-hmm.
I can't mess up.
Mm,
Or so then now I might be so focused on you trusting me that I it takes my focus off of the rest of the relationship. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
If you're in a relationship that you're so focused on trust, how are you enjoying the other part of the relationship?
Mm,
If your concern is if I trust you or not, and
yeah.
I'm gauging everything that you do off of trust. I'm gauging everything that you do off of loyalty. Like to me, I'm making mental checklists.
Mm,
So how can I be present with you? How can I be have fun with you? How can I
right.
experience just silence with you if I'm always in my own head checking off trust and loyalty, and are you being transparent as you're telling me, like how,
Mm.
like you can't have all that in your head.
Even as as you were saying the word check, it, it was popping into my head of like a scorecard as
Yeah.
well, like, and that doesn't, like, I can think of times when I've been like keeping score of when someone like follows through on their word. Are they being
Mhm.
in integrity? Are they blah 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 blah, and so I can think of times when I've done that to other people, and as you were saying that and I was
Mhm.
thinking scorecard, that got really uncomfortable for me. That was like, it didn't feel good at all. So if we're going to do that to other people, like, we got to know how that would feel to be a
Yes.
checklist in somebody's head.
Some people keep negative score.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the survival part of the brain. That's again, that brings in all of the disappointments and the upsets and the rejections and the distrust and all of that.
Mm,
I'm going to be checking those things off to make sure I don't feel that with you.
yeah.
So then
Yeah.
I can't tell you that I'm present to be hanging around you when I got all this stuff in my head.
Mm.
You can't be fully present. You just
Mm.
you just can't be fully
Ooh.
present. And that's what I've been developing myself. Oh, loyalty. Like you hear the songs, you hear the music, you hear people. I want loyalty. Well, when you point that out, that means that's something that you don't even know what that is for yourself. So you want me to show you that. You want me to show you trust first, so you can kind of gauge your trust to see if
Mm.
you could trust. Like that's a game. Like that's a
Yeah.
mental game. And so then how can we have fun? And I'm over here checking if I could trust you when we're out and about in the city. Is she looking at somebody else? Is he looking at somebody else? Can I trust him? Can I trust him to go to the
Wow.
by himself? Like you're not having fun.
Yeah. Oh, there's no fun when you're there is zero fun when you're and I talked about this a little bit on Project Joy on Monday. I've been very forthright on that show about the absolute roller coaster that we've been on in our household for the last year, and then especially since January. And I realized as we've been doing this series so far that trust is such a big part of the conversation that we've been having in our household the last 6 months or so. And it is absolutely, it is it is exhausting.
Yes,
It is
exactly.
exhausting,
Exactly.
truly, when you're having
Exactly.
to like
Yes.
figure out, like, is someone trustworthy? Do I trust? Like, how much trust? How far do we go? What are the boundaries that should be there? Like, it just, man, if anything can make you overthink, truly.
Yes. You said it. And and
Yeah.
and we don't realize, and this is my lesson that I've been speaking at church the last couple of months. The Holy Spirit gave me our opinions and how our opinions run our life,
Mm,
and to the point that they run our life so much that it's exhausting to have
yeah.
an opinion about uh,
Mm,
right or wrong, good or bad. I win, you lose. Like, that's exhausting to sit here and try to figure out if you're right or wrong in what you're saying to me all the time.
mm-hmm.
Like, what is that costing me? It's
Yeah.
costing me my aliveness, my vitality, my happiness, my joy. Like, it's costing you to live in your opinions about something,
Yeah.
even about stuff in the world on the news. Like, our opinion are there are opinions, but they're not the truth. But some of us live through our opinions. Like, my opinion is the truth. So whatever
Mm,
you say against my opinion, if you don't agree with it, then I'm gonna come at you. And then, but for me to be that kind of person, we don't realize, like you said, it's exhausting, mentally
mm,
draining to live a life like that.
yeah. Yeah.
Our opinions are beating us up more than anything.
Yeah.
That's why I said people are. I've been saying people are not our problem. Like, I'm starting to live from that rule,
Mm,
and almost like a way to live from, because you're not my problem.
mm,
It's a totally different battle in the world, and it's not you. It's me and my view and how I look at the world.
mm.
But
Yeah.
our opinions, our opinions, our opinions get in the way of trust.
Yeah, I think that's a the our that's a good question. Like, what are some of the things that get in the way of our trust, our opinions, our experiences that we've had? Um, I think that's probably the bulk of it. Would you say, like, do anything else that gets in the way of you trusting?
Yeah, like, it's, like I said, it depends on your environment, because we grew up in an environment and we watched our parents, we watched our brothers and sisters and friends, and so if I see with my mouth, right? If
Mm,
I'm seeing with my mouth, then I'm gonna be, oh shoot, that's rejection. That's
right.
this, that's that. So now I'm looking at it. So when it happens to me, what am I living from?
Mm,
I'm living from all the stuff that I've absorbed from my childhood, and now I got to go test it out and see if it what for myself. But
right.
then it's not my truth.
Right.
So then, yeah, a lot of we have to be honest with ourselves and say, where did we get our influences from?
Right. Right.
TV, movies, music. That's me. TV, movie, music,
Yeah.
all emotional.
I love that Danielle commented below. Danielle's one of my friends from back in school days. Danielle's known me a
Hey,
long time, a long, long time.
hey.
And we've had this, and it's so funny because it's actually one of my favorite things, like having a friend from a long time ago and a friend from right now. Like, oh,
Yeah,
like, look, like it's like a little party okay, anyway, that was it. I'll digress with that.
she's happy to see you. She's happy to see you.
Anyway, so it is funny because Danielle and I were very different people, but like we knew each other back
Mhm,
in school days, but we didn't necessarily hang out all the time.
mhm,
And when we got together, for the first, like, last year, in November of last year for the first time in over, like, God, Danielle, what was it, like 25 years, 26 years, something
Wow.
like that, like long time. Okay. First time we had gotten together in that long period of time. That was one of the things that we talked about, was like some of the things that we used to think about each other
Yeah.
back in the day. And this sort of ties in maybe a little bit to what we're going to talk about next episode as well, which is trusting again. But if I had gone off of everything that I thought I knew at the
Mhm.
time when we were younger, if I hadn't opened myself up to trust, like listen,
Mhm.
listen,
Mhm.
communicate, view the journey of, we
Mhm.
wouldn't be hanging out now
Mhm.
like we've been doing. Our husbands wouldn't have this bromance happening. Like there there wouldn't be all of this stuff going. And so, like, I just think like it's so important, going back to our initial conversation on the show, that communication piece when
Mhm.
it comes to trust. Like, some we have these opinions like you're talking about, and then we don't communicate about what's going on, and we just run with the opinions instead of talking about it, and
Mhm.
then we don't trust when, and we could have been we I could have been missing out on this great friendship that I have with Danielle now.
Yes. That's why I said people are not our problem. And so ultimately at the end of the day, we have to be willing to tell the truth to ourselves.
Mm,
And if you can't tell the truth to yourself of what you trust and distrust about yourself first, then it's gonna be difficult to have that with other people. It's just gonna be challenging.
I just
So
wanted to make a special banner just for that. uh,
you have to
that
be able to tell the truth to yourself. And we don't. We don't.
yeah,
We
yeah.
we don't tell the truth. We suffer in silence. We don't tell the truth to ourselves.
Mm.
Sometimes some stuff you got to say out loud to yourself so you can hear how ridiculous you sound to yourself in your head.
This is why I constantly am talking to myself out loud, because I will tell myself too. Really, Jessica?
Really?
Really? This is what we're doing?
How
No, no,
ridiculous.
ma'am.
How ridiculous. The things that I discovered, I'm telling you, over the last 13 years about myself, each one of them was ridiculous when I discovered
Yeah,
how the brain of a child viewed life as a child.
yeah.
Like it was ridiculous that I lived 38
Mm,
years in self-loathing from a
mm,
14-year-old junior high school teenager. It was
yeah,
ridiculous. And I just laughed like you got to be kidding like cuz I remember that story. That's
yeah.
where I gave up being vulnerable. That's why vulnerable has no power. That's why trust, you know, my reasons for not trusting was reinforced at that age.
Right,
So it's like, but it was ridiculous to discover where it was coming from.
right. You know, that's what I already know what your answer is going to be, but for the purpose of our audience out there, how important is it to, as we're having this trust discussion, to go back and look at our relationship with our parents?
Oh, I mean, for me, that was the root of it.
Mm,
Um, and I have my next inspirational read is it's like Star Wars. I wrote it out of the Chronicles out of order, um, but the first one is going to be the life of a 2-year-old, the disconnected with love,
mm,
and if you understand child development and you understand brain science, the moment that my grandparents allowed me to live with them and go now visit my mom on the weekends,
mm,
the disconnection from that me to my mom was broken.
mm,
And so the trust that I had with my mom, yeah, of course I was 2. I didn't have the words, but I cried to go back to my grandparents' house when she would pick me up. And I remember her telling me, "No, you're at home. No, I want to go back to mama's house." And
mm,
that was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old because I lived with them from 2 to 6. So the disconnection from my mom was number one.
mm,
And that's a natural and for people that are listening, that's a natural break. There's a natural break in communication between child and parent. And if
mm.
you learn about that and you understand that, then you can recognize when the break happens.
Right.
You can
Right.
recognize the behavior in the child, and
Yeah.
that's so important in understanding the way that we function as people, as human beings. There's a natural break from both parents, and I can tell you mine was at 2 years old,
Mm,
and everything else after that was just reinforced disappointment and disconnection, and I
yeah.
had more evidence. So yeah, but it's so important to trust.
I was reading, I was sharing with Farron before the show a quote that was from psychcentral.com about, it was from an article about why trust is important. And it talks about trust being important in human development.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, when a child is reassured that needs will be met, even if wants or requests are not always, he or she will develop a greater sense of autonomy and a willingness to take safe risks, which one of those risks I feel like is trusting.
Yeah.
So when we are not, when we don't feel safe, our willingness to trust, our willingness to take that risk to trust, I feel like decreases. And I think, um as I was having that conversation with my husband about trust in our relationship a couple days ago, I recognized that the you know the times when that trust percentage is super high in our relationships are times when I feel the most safe.
Mm.
When I start to feel not safe or a little, little uneasy, or that I could be harmed in some way, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like that fight or flight kind of
Yes.
takes over a little bit as well. So do you recognize that correlation between trust and safety in yourself as well?
Oh yeah, I had to start putting more words to, instead of describing it to myself, I
Mm,
had to start putting actual words and finding the emotion that I was feeling with an actual word that best fit that feeling so that I could then communicate that.
mm,
And so that has helped me tremendously for myself to myself,
mm,
because I'm on this journey now. Like I'm finally okay with Farron. Like I'm finally okay with Farron, and so me trusting myself and saying, okay, these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths. I trust myself in this environment, but I can't trust myself over here. So don't put
mm.
myself in that situation, so I don't have to challenge myself in that. Like it's like, and all these things are in your head, my head, like seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now because I have these principles, these new principles that I live from now, these new views that I have of myself, when I go to think about it or I have that feeling that comes up about it, I can now pick which way I want to go with it.
Yeah.
And if I do
Yeah.
go with the old way of trust, I can catch myself and that's not, that's I don't want to do that one too. Let's try this one.
Mm,
Let's be vulnerable and say something.
yeah.
So yeah, I think more, the more that you develop yourself and you find, you challenge your old ways, your old trust issues, you challenge it.
Mm,
Like you got to challenge them, and when you challenge them and you realize that, okay, well, maybe I'm ready to take that trust to another level, you can communicate that.
right. Right.
You can talk about it.
When we were talking about integrity, I brought up a quote that a friend of mine had said to me at one point, that I remember you getting a little, I don't think I would say upset, but
Yeah.
you felt some kind of way about it. And that was, trust people to be who they are. Um, and I think I think that's a tough one for me, because it's almost like, what the hell is that quote? There's a quote from someone else that I wish I would have thought about it before this very second, because now I have no idea. But there's a quote from someone else that's like, once some what is it? Once somebody does something, uh it's almost like the fool me once, shame on you, fool me
Yeah,
twice,
yeah,
shame
yeah,
on
yeah,
me
yeah,
type of deal. It's a
yeah,
route, something like that. But I just I don't know, the quote, and on one hand I get it. It's like once somebody shows me who they are, that percentage absolutely lowers.
yeah,
However, going back to that, like conversation I was having about, Danielle when we were kids, if I hadn't if I hadn't, if I had held myself to that same thing as
Right.
before, we wouldn't have a relationship. So
Exactly.
it's like, where's that line between a not allowing yourself to be, you know, bulldozed or doormat?
So one of these that I have written here is you have to relinquish control.
Mm,
Sometimes if you give up,
I'm out.
yeah. So it says it's essential to protect yourself. Being overly controlling can hinder trust.
Yeah.
I'll allow others the space to be themselves and make their decisions.
Mm,
And I use this phrase, I'm the biggest jerk in the room. So if I'm the biggest jerk in the room when I show up, then I'm gonna allow you to be the you can't outbe the jerk because I'm the biggest
mm,
jerk.
yeah.
So if somebody has acts wild or does whatever, I'm not gonna judge them. I'm not gonna like, what's wrong with you? Like, no, because I'm the biggest jerk. So it
Mm,
allows people to be themselves, and that's what we want. That's what we're trusting. The trust is the trust that we want is for you to just be yourself.
yeah. Yeah.
That's all we want.
Right. Right. I think I'm really glad that next episode we're going to be
No, I'm
talking
not.
about. No, you're not. Wait, you're not glad? You're not. Wait, the next
I
week's going
can't
to be.
wait. I can't wait till this whole trust session is over with.
This was your idea.
I know. What was I thinking?
Let me go get my bell. I'll be right back.
What was I
This
thinking?
was your idea,
I
first of all.
know. I know.
Second of all, uh, I am excited to about our next topic because it's about trusting again. Because it's not. I don't think either one of us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Farron, are saying that the trust thing is easy. And it's certainly not easy when that trust has been broken, when we've had expectations that have not been met. That expectation word is going to come
All
up a
that.
lot next week,
Yes.
I feel
Yeah.
like. And I'll be holding my stance that expectations are a normal human experience, okay, boys and girls, as we talk about this conversation. But
Do you consider yourself being a vulnerable person?
oh yeah, yeah.
Really?
Hmm. I look, Danielle was just, when we went out the other night and we were talking about my new show, which I'm really excited about. New Englanders Are Not Assholes.
Yeah, yeah.
Very so excited about this show. Let me tell you something. Um, and she said to me, and this really meant a lot to me. She said, having been on the show with you and knowing you like IRL
Mm-hmm.
outside of the computer,
Mm-hmm.
you are the same person.
Mm.
You're the same person
Mm.
on there as you. So I my like Project Joy, I will come on my show, Project Joy, and be like, I'm struggling with my joy muscle today.
Yeah.
I'm happy because, and I feel like that honesty piece is such a huge part of being vulnerable, and
Yeah.
because there's so many people that struggle with that, and I'm at a point in my life, I'm just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of not just being who you are?
Well, honesty is like the number one of the trust. Like
Mm,
that is what I have down as number one. Is the key is
mm,
you gotta have trust in yourself, but honesty with yourself. That's what I'm saying. If I'm honest with myself, then I'm free.
right.
I'm free to be whoever I want to be, and I can even own the negative of what people say about me.
Mm,
Like that's the freeing when you're able to own your past, like own it. Like yeah, that stuff happened, and that's just one side of the story. But yeah,
mm,
I could say that I was that kind of person back then. I'm not triggered.
mm.
I own it.
Ooh.
I'm not bothered. But it takes a special way to be
Mm,
to say I'm gonna own my past, good, bad, and indifferent. Like I'm gonna own it,
yeah.
and that's and so you can be honest. I mean, people call me Fran. You a player. You was a player. I would say I'm not no player, but I was so
Were you? Should
guarded.
we have a whole episode about this? I
Oh
need to
yeah,
hear.
because I was so guarded about being
Yeah.
disappointed in
Yeah.
relationships that I was emotional. So if I
Yeah.
felt like she was gonna leave me, I didn't know that I could communicate that. I'm gonna go
Yep.
find somebody else. So when she
Yep.
leaves, I don't have that pain that but I don't even know I'm avoiding that pain. So I would
Yeah.
end up with like two girlfriends.
Mm.
So to my friends, they're like, "Oh man, you a player." I'm like, "No, I'm not a." I'm like, "Nah, what are you talking about?"
I'm a scared little boy.
Yeah, right, but we label people
Right.
without
Right.
understanding what they're dealing with in life. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So when you get past the labels, it's like, oh man, well, I could see why you called me a player or a cheater, but
Yeah.
nobody asked what Farron was dealing with.
Right. Right.
No one asked that. So
Yeah.
I'm the label.
Right. And it's so funny that you were talking about this stuff too, because I was going to talk about my one of my guilty pleasures is some of this trash TV that's available on the Netflix. Okay. And there's a show, Too Hot to Handle. I know some of you guys have seen this out there. It is raunchy and horrible. Okay. I'm not going to lie. You can trust that when you it's ridiculous. It is but anyway, they actually have a couple redeeming moments in these
Yeah,
shows, okay,
of
sometimes
course.
where, for example, speaking of trust, they have all these tests of trust on this show, okay? And
Mm.
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't throw any of them as far as I could throw them. Not a one. Not one of these contestants, okay? However, um the one girl really was struggling with vulnerability, like
Mm.
opening up to her partner on the show, and she finally was like, I recognize that as soon as I have to start being honest and
Mm.
authentic
Mm-hmm.
and vulnerable and emotional, I'm next on to the
Yep.
next person. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I will have two, three, four people lined up and ready to go, just knowing because from my past that that's what's going to happen because I don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm ready because, and they have, they've gotten the player name for themselves and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but it comes from a place. God, if we could just before we are so ready to label someone
Mm-hmm.
or shoot somebody down for their crap,
Mm-hmm.
if we could just go, could it possibly be coming from a place of hurt?
Mm-hmm.
If we could you just imagine just the shift in energy in this world?
Mm-hmm.
If we could just, I
How many
could,
more people will still be alive?
where's my bell?
How many people would still be alive today because of just that right there?
Right.
I mean, we have no
Mm,
say so in when or where white people die, but we best believe can start having some conversations to give people an opportunity to live their life.
mm. I have gotten in some hot water in conversations that I've had with people, where we've talked about some of the most horrendous names in history, like Hitler,
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
example. And me saying in those conversations that there is an element of compassion that I feel for these people.
Oh, you too?
I have
Definitely.
gotten some shit.
Oh no, Hitler, man. He was not born that way. Somebody had those conversations. Somebody filled his mind. Somebody
Hmm.
nurtured that attitude, that view in that little boy's life.
Right.
That wasn't just not nah. So I'm with you.
And
I
it
yeah.
doesn't give a pass. Like
No,
you're not
no,
saying that this makes it it makes it okay. I'm not saying that I would have
no,
let that
no,
person babysit my kids.
no.
but having the little bit of understanding and compassion of
Exactly.
like this had to come from
Yes,
somewhere.
he influenced for
Somewhere.
sure. Somebody saw that kid and influenced him,
Yeah.
and he believed it.
Yep.
And his identity.
Yep.
We're all dealing with that identity, that sense of belonging. Hey, I'm with you on that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with Hitler because if you look at the humanness of people,
Mm,
that's that whole compassion that y'all talking about that y'all want for people.
right. Right. People say they want it, but
Yeah, they want
do you
exactly.
really?
But do you
Do
want
you,
to be it? I
That's the
want it, but I
question.
don't want to be it though.
That's
Mm-mm,
the question. I want to
mm-mm.
acknowledge a few of the comments before we have to go this evening. Teresa said, I've been working on trusting that I can take care of myself and that source has my back. And I love that last part of the comment because we're going to be talking about trust as it relates to faith on the very last. Uh, Farron's currently waiting for a divine download intervention of some kind for that episode.
I'm not gonna say too much right now.
We're gonna talk about trust and faith on our final episode, which will be coming up. We'll be back in 2 weeks on August the what are we at here? August the 8th to talk about trust and trusting again. What happens when that trust sort of falls to pieces, and do you choose to trust again? We're gonna talk about we'll talk about boundaries. I want to talk about the phrase earn trust next week. I want to talk about that next
Is
week.
there such a thing?
We're going to talk about triggers next week. I think there's a lot we're going to talk about the next episode. Danielle said, "I own my past 100%,"
Hey.
and I think that's like key.
You are free to be.
Yeah. But we're always changing and evolving. We're not the same person we were a year
Yes.
ago, 2 years ago, even 3 months ago. And you know what's
Hey.
funny? Because I put a post on my Facebook recently about you are not under any obligation to be who you were 5 minutes ago. You're not held to that. And somebody smart ass had to come in the comments about how it's something about consistency, like you
Yeah,
can't
see?
listen. Okay.
The brain is malleable. That's the beauty of it. The brain is malleable. You can grow, learn, develop, create, change,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I could be a totally different person tomorrow.
It is your choice to prioritize consistency over growth. Oh,
People.
oh,
That's somebody who's not consistent in their own life.
it is your
So
choice.
you got to be. I want to see consistency from you, so then I can finally let my consistency without being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that what it looks like? Oh, so I can match my consistency with like that's
It is your choice.
words.
Okay, boy. This is an educational program.
For real.
All right. So like I said, next week we're going to be talking about what are we talking about next week?
I don't know if I could trust it. You know what? I'm gonna really do some research on that because I would like to. I think because I'm not in a relationship, because I don't know how to trust again, and that's why I picked this subject because I'm this is my real life right here, y'all. I'm really like peeled off some layers, and I won't get into another relationship yet because I don't know if I could trust again. And is it worth that risk?
Ooh.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a few 2, 3, 95 moments.
Yeah. So August, I don't know.
August 8th.
I might be sick August 8th.
No. No, you won't.
I will trust that you will be right now.
We're seeing that physical reaction. I'm going to trust that you're going to be healthy and well and with bells on to participate in this conversation.
Yeah, because once we get to that faith one, that's where I'm finding my peace at, that I could say that.
Yeah.
Because of where my faith level is, and now putting it all in a particular order of operation versus just scrambling it all in from all those past experiences.
Yeah.
That weren't so good.
Teresa said that's one reason I swore off relationships because I don't think I can trust again.
It's a risk.
And I think for me going into next episode, like I feel like it's to be able to trust again is a choice that we make. We do have to have that level of confidence that we talked about, I think, and prioritize, or go back to that word expectation. Go back to the word expectation, because we have to, if we can get out of our way and stop expecting that relationship has to look exactly the same as it did before the breach in trust happened.
Right.
That's
All of
where
that.
I think there's a lot of that we can get into next
Yeah,
time as well.
I agree.
This has been really good. We weren't simply witches.
Oh, looks like we made it.
Looks like we made it.
Oh,
We did it.
all right.
Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Thank you to all of you for being vulnerable in the comments. Really
Ah!
appreciate you guys. Really appreciate. We really appreciate you guys for being here because listen, it takes a lot to put yourself out there in the comments like that. We appreciate you. We trust that you'll be here in 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Eastern time for an all new episode of Beyond 2D with myself and Farron as we talk about trusting
Yes.
again.
Who picked this subject?
You.
Oh,
And with that, it's time to go. Thank you, Farron, for being
yep.
here with me this evening. Appreciate you.
Thank you for the time.
And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
All right,
Bye,
people.
everybody. Bye.